Alright, good morning. So let me know if the stream is choppy or anything this morning. I've increased my bitrate and it's been throwing some errors this morning. Yeah, I'll try and keep an eye on it out the corner of my eye, but yeah, let me know. But let's get started. So recently I've changed over to a new blog platform, and I want to start doing automatic blog archive tweets. So basically the premise is we get the entire catalogue of tweets from my blog, choose a random one, tweet it out, preferably with some hashtags and obviously a link to it. Yeah, so we're going to start on that today and hopefully finish it by the time the stream is over. So if I pull over my blog, we've got a feed here. So for future use I'll grab that URL. But one thing that I've noticed about Ghost and its RSS feed is that it's paginated. So if I remember correctly, I get about 15 posts on each page of my RSS feed, and then if I append a 2, I end up with the second page and so on. So I'm going to need to loop through each of these pages in order to build up the full list of my archive. So that's going to be the first thing we have to look at today. So actually, before I forget, let's jot down what that URL was and create an array list to hold our collection of posts. And let's start by making sure that invoke web request actually pulls down these posts in a format that's usable. So let's start with that, assuming Visual Studio wants to catch up. Of course, that probably needs to be like that. Better. I'm sure I just ran all of this. There we go. Notice it's only added one thing to that array list, which is probably not ideal. And if I have a look at posts, I was thinking really hard about it down here. Hey, morning, how are you? I don't understand why it's thinking that hard about it. Let's see. Used the wrong command loop. Alright, let's try that again. maybe with a blank one. Alright, let's look at posts again. Helps if I'm typing down here. So we can see all of that first page of blog posts, but there's only actually one item in that array list at the moment. So that means all of my blog posts have gone into one element of that array. So it's basically turned itself into a three-dimensional array, which is probably not what I'm after. So let's start. By doing something a little bit like this. Don't want that. So we'll get our first page of blog posts, loop through them all, and add them to the array. That's post. And we should see it add 15 items to that array list, which is a lot better. Now that we know it's doing that, let's silence it though. So the next thing we need to do is start looping through those pages. So for anyone that missed it, let's pull it over. My blog post, my blog's RSS feed is paginated. So I get 15 blog posts per page, and I need to append a number to go through the additional pages. So we're going to have to figure out how to do that. And I'm thinking we indicate the page number and we decide whether or not there's more. As in whether or not there's more to do. And we'll start this off with defaulting to true. And there are much smarter ways to do this. Not while true, geez, while more. So basically I'm just going to keep looping through this until we decide there's no more blog posts to pull down. And actually, I don't know. If I add a 1 there, do I get the first page? It looks like I do. Cool. It redirects to the to the raw address, but in theory that should work for us. Which means we should be able to do something a little bit like this. So, what I'm going to want to check is to see if I've actually got any items in that latest REST method. And then if there aren't, whoops, then we would say that there's no more to grab. And we also want to increment our page number, meaning the next time we run through it, it'll be checking page 2, then page 3, and so on. So let's run this and see what we've broken. Alright. So, as you can see, once we get to the end of our pages from the RSS feed, we start getting 404 errors, and this isn't causing this to trigger to say that there's no more. Now, how we can deal with that is, well, first, I'm pretty sure we can't, like that error that we're seeing, we can't silence. So if we set the error action on invoke REST method, I'm fairly certain we're still going to see error messages. Yep. So instead of trying to silence it, let's set this to stop and chuck this in a try catch block. Oh, I was meant to get rid of PowerShell before my next stream, wasn't I? So we'll try to grab the page. If we don't get it, we're going to make page equal to null. Not nuck, we'll make page equal to null. That means this will trip, and it also means we won't get an error message up here. And then that means we're going to end up with, in theory, we should end up with an array list that contains 53, at last count, blog posts, hopefully. Cool. Well, we got no errors, that's a good start. It's got stuff in it, and it's got 53 items. So let's start poking around the data in one of these. We'll pick on number 40, but not like that. So in here we've got a title, description, link, category, and the publication date, which is the only things I'm going to care about are the title, description, and categories, because those are the bits we're going to be tweeting out. So let's have a look at what those look like. So the title ends up within the CDAR description does as well. That you can use rather than having to pass rather than having to pass the HTML. I've just got objects now I can work with like this, which is very handy. Right, so I've got my title, got description. Link is just the link, so there's nothing else within that I need to muck with. The other thing was category, and this isn't a good example really. So let's pick one with a couple of tags on it. Hell, let's just go with the latest one. The latest one, which has 2. So I want to account for blog posts that have 2 or more categories on them, and we're going to use both of those as well, we're going to use any of the categories as hashtags when it goes out. I think for the most part all of my tags are single words except for one, so I'm going to need to account for that as well. So I guess the first step in this is we've got our collection of posts. I need to decide which post I'm going to actually, tweet out. And I'm not going to make this any more difficult than it needs to be. I'll just pipe posts to get random. And that should pull out one random tweet. This is a good one to be playing with because it's got 2 categories on it. Cool. Let me just grab that because I know I'm about to need it. Right, so let's grab our random bits of information. So we need the title and excerpt, which is spelling, which is what my description actually is, the link, and the categories. So, title's nice and simple. We want post to post, we need the title, and we're looking at the C data. It's the same for the excerpt, except this isn't the title, it's the description. Now categories is where we're going to have to do a little bit of mucking around with it. So if we grab post to post and look at the categories, I want to not be very efficient, but we'll do it like this. Not like that. I want C data. So on each of them I want to grab out the data from within the C data block, and just in case we'll call replace to get rid of any spaces. Cool. And I think that should do the trick. So if we go down the list, there's our title, there's our excerpt, link, and categories should be 2 words. Cool. Now those categories I end up wanting them to be hashtags, and thinking ahead, I'm going to make them a string with the pound sign and just all of the categories together in one string. So let's go hashtags, create an empty string. So in theory, if we had no categories, our hashtags component of that tweet is just going to be an empty string, so no worries. Then we'll loop through each of them. So I've put a space at the front there. That's so that I end up with a space between each of my hashtags, but also it means that I know when I'm chucking this into my finished tweet, I know that I don't need to manually provide a space between whatever content was before it and the hashtags themselves. So it serves a bit of a dual purpose there. But I guess before calling that done, let's test it to make sure it actually worked. Cool. So space at the front, space between them, pound sign, all good. Which means we can now compose the text for our tweet. So you'll have seen me testing out the form that I want these tweets to take yesterday. So I think I'm just going to stick with what I'd been tweeting out yesterday, which is so clearly identifying that it's an archive post, so it's nothing new. And then in quote marks, the title. Two new lines, and then the excerpt. Followed by the hashtags. One more new line and then the link. So that means that my tweet is going to look a little something like this. So got the designation about it being from the archive, title, the excerpt, a couple of hashtags, and the link. So that's the tweet. We now need to get that up on Twitter. And the module I'm going to use for that is, I can never remember the name. PoshTwit. And as you can see, I've already got it installed, and that's for two reasons. So on the gallery here is PoshTwit. I've already got it installed, and that's for two reasons, which is mainly that I've got Twitter credentials there, and I don't really want to advertise those on stream when I'm setting them up. So I've already got it installed, I've already got my credentials sorted, but in playing with this thing, I still need to sort of work with those a little bit by grabbing the JSON. But I guess the first thing is we'll manually import it. Not like that. And then, because playing with this in the past, even though I've got my credentials in the JSON file, they don't seem to be automatically used. So first thing I'll do is grab my token, and I'm going to be careful about this because the content of this JSON file is my API keys and whatnot, so I'll do my best not to show them on stream. I really hate Visual Studio Code sometimes. Let's do this manually. Posh tweet. There. So my credentials are in this token.json file. So we need to point at that. And it is JSON, so we'll go convert from, not like that, convert from JSON. Now, if this has worked, let me take this over to the other screen to see what the contents of that looks like. So I can tell you it's working, but I won't let you see the content. Now, publish tweet. There is no syntax. Alright, so it's going to need the tweet in the form of a string, the consumer key, the consumer secret, the access token, and the access secret. So that's going to be really long. Let's make this a hash table. Right, so what did I say it needed? It was consumer key, consumer token, no, not consumer token. Consumer key, consumer secret, and access token, access secret. That's not confusing at all. because my brain is like a sieve at 4:30 in the morning, consumer key, consumer secret, access token, access secret. Cool. So in that token then should be my consumer key, a little something like that, and my consumer secret, my access token, and my access secret. So in theory, that should be everything I need to send off a tweet. And if I go ahead and splat that, and go send, in fact, let's run this whole thing. And I'll pull up Twitter to see if anything came up on my feed. There we go. So just now, from the blog archive, there's the title, 2 new lines, an excerpt, and then although you can't see it, a new line and the link, which is turned into a card. However, that link isn't, it never seems to look right on my feed, but if I jump over to incognito, it loads up with the full thumbnail and everything. So I'm going to delete this tweet just because we're going to end up running it again in a second. Pull it over here just in case we need it again. So that's cool, that's working. And in theory, every time I run this, we're getting a new tweet through getRandom, which is good. Cool. But, of course, I want this to run every day. So, what I'm going to do is head over to where I'm saving this, which is in PowerShell Depot Gallery Scripts, and send blog tweet. I'm going to copy this over to my home server. Nah. Not really. If it happens, it happens. It'd be a 1 in... Actually, what are the odds in that? So there's a 1 in 52 chance, at the moment, a 1 in 52 chance. So if I copy that, so at the moment there's basically a 2% chance of it happening, of getting a single post. Then in order for it to come up a second time, that's 0.03% chance of it happening 2 times in a row. And of course, as I create more posts, it becomes less and less likely. So basically, if it happens, it happens. If I notice it, I'll probably just delete the second one. Yeah, no, I'm not too worried about it. And I'm hoping my probability calculation there was alright. But let's jump over to my home server. Right. So on my C drive, Oh, and what I will say is on my home server, I've already got, God, I've already forgotten the name of it, PoshTwit. I closed it. I've already got the Twitter module installed. I've already got the module installed, and I've already got my credentials in that JSON file, so in theory, I just need to run that script file from here, and it'll, work exactly the same as on my PC. But we're not just going to run it, we'll do a scheduled job, which I love because they're awesome. So we know it requires the internet, so I'll tell the job that it requires the network to run. Now the trigger is where we specify when the thing runs. So yes it is. And what I haven't mentioned yet is this stream is going to be turned around sometime today into a blog post in and of itself, which then of course increases the pool of posts to pull from. So yeah. So yesterday I was experimenting with how I want this to run in the future, and yesterday I decided to tweet out 2 blog posts. Given my current pool to pick from, I think 2 times a day is too often. So we're going to stick with once, but it is going to be daily. And I'm liking the afternoon version more. So I'm going to tweet daily at about 2 PM local time, which if it matters is about 7 PM in Seattle, or 10 PM in New York. So maybe that's a little late. Let's make it noon my time, because what I'm going to do is put a random delay of... So basically what this says is the job's going to fire off daily at noon my time, but with the random delay of an hour and a half, which means it could happen anywhere between noon and 1:30 my time. So we'll end up with some quasi randomness to when it's going out, rather than it being, bang on a certain time every day, which I kind of like. Then the last thing we need to do is register this. Awesome, catch you later. So let's register this. We pointed at that file we just created, which is sitting in here. Give it a name so I know what it is. So, we're registering a job, pointing it at that file we just chucked locally on the C drive, giving the job a name so I can identify it later and not be thoroughly confused by it, and then passing in the trigger and the option we just created, and also telling it to run now. So in theory, when I click go, it's going to register the scheduled job, and if I head over to Twitter, if I don't see it right away, I should see it soon. there we go. There's our tweet. So, given that that's my latest one, and given that one's going to go out this afternoon, I am going to delete that again. And from now on, we'll just let it run on its own accord once a day, sometime between noon and 1:30. So in theory, that's all done. And I can close my server, yeah, cool. So let's get a copy of this up on GitHub before we do anything more. If we do anything more. We've been going for 40 minutes-ish. So the link to this repo should be in the YouTube description. It's noted as the code. Let me check that that link's actually working. Yeah, cool, it's in there. And of course it's the send-blog tweet PS1 file. So I guess there's actually no reason to have that in there. So I'm going to do a little bit of tidy up here and maybe parameterize this a little bit. Make it more usable for other people. The first thing I'm going to do is say that this requires so let people know this script requires posh twit. And we're going to need some parameters. And because it's for me, I'm of course going to make it default to my feed, which then means I need to update my URI. And I think the only other thing I am going to parameterize is where my token lives. Because in theory, someone else might have it installed somewhere else, so I probably shouldn't assume. So that gets it into a more other people friendly state. Now, ideally, what I'm wanting to do is I'm meant to be doing a TechSnip video on how to upload a script to the PowerShell gallery. I'm thinking I'm going to end up using this script as the guinea pig for that demo, which means I need to add a PS script info block to the top of this. Which I never remember the format of. But that there looks like a good enough template to use. Little something like that. In fact, is there an example of one with requires in here? Yep, cool. So main chunk of the script file there, requires, and then the description. Which is how we've got this. Cool. So let's go ahead and fill out the information here. This is, we'll call it 0.1. We need a GUID, which is that. We need an author. Let's find the generic copyright thing that I put on all my random stuff. What year are we in? Actually, is this even the right format? That's... Now, what I was asking there is... Yeah, cool. Just wasn't sure if I meant to be putting these on the same line or on the line underneath. No, that's cool. Tags. Let's head back over to the gallery. So tags, let's use all of those and also add blog to the list. Actually, instead of media, let's use blog. Again, just make sure we're doing this right. No comma. And also I noticed no quote marks. Okie dokie. Now we need a couple of URLs. A couple of URLs, one of which being the project URI. What am I clicking on? That one. Project URI, and also the license, which is that one. Actually, I guess the project URI I could point all the way to the file. We've got no icon, External module dependencies. How is that different than the requires statement? That is an interesting question. I don't know. Maybe external modules are things that aren't on the PowerShell gallery? Sure. Basically, I'm going to leave it blank. We don't have any required scripts, apart from itself, so I guess that's fine. And release notes. Which is catching back up. Alright, I'm going to drop down the video bitrate a bit. See if that helps. Alright. So then we need a description, so choose as a random sorry, I'm going to be silent here while I concentrate on typing for a bit. Alright, that's good enough for a description. I guess the only other thing this needs is a little bit of error handling. It probably only actually needs to happen on that, but we should really do that up here. I'm not going to worry about it. You know what? I think that's looking pretty good. So I'll save that. So let me drop a link to this file in chat. Cool, I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. So, just to recap, I've now got my PS script info block up the top of my script file, and literally this is for a TechSnips video that I'll be doing soon, where I need a candidate to upload a script to the gallery. So in theory you'll see a tweet at some stage about how this script is available on the gallery now. We're stating that it requires PoshTwit, which means at that point it should in theory download it for you when you install the script, I hope. We've parameterized some parts of it so that it's usable by other people. And of course I've set the default to what works for me because I'm the one using it at the moment. Although I'm not sure if I'll leave that in when this goes up to the gallery. We'll play that by ear. Then we are getting all of the posts from my blog's RSS feed. These are each being added to an array list, and then because my blog posts, my blog's RSS feed is paginated, we're then incrementing the page number and doing it again until such point as we get a 404 from invoke rest method, at which point it sets more to false and stops this while loop. So in theory, at that point, this posts array list has a collection of all of my blog posts, and then we go ahead and use get random to pick a random blog post out of those options. Then we grab the data we want, the title, the excerpt, the link, and the categories, which we immediately turn around and create hashtags out of, and then generate our tweet, which we've now seen work, 2 or 3 times, so I'm happy. We get our token for posh tweet, splat all the parameters, and publish the tweet. Hey, good morning. You've caught us right at the end. I'm just wrapping up. And then over on my home server, we've got a copy of the script file locally, and I realise this is probably a little bit small. We've got a copy of the script file locally on my home server. We're running it daily at noon with a random delay of 1.5 hours, meaning it could fire off anywhere between noon and 1:30 local time, which is sometime in the evening over in the States. Yep, and it's just calling that PS1 script file. So in theory, in anywhere between 6 and 7.5 hours, you should see a tweet go out on my Twitter, which will be as a result of the scheduled job. Cool. And yeah, so that's going to be the end of the stream for today. We got this written a lot quicker than I expected to, but you know, it's pretty cool. Like I said, it will probably end up on the PowerShell gallery soon. Yeah. And of course, the code is on GitHub. So if you want to make any changes, feel free to go ahead and submit a PR and I'll merge them in. Yeah. Sometime today this will probably spark a blog post, so keep an eye out for that, and keep an eye out for the automatic archive tweet. Other than that, have a good day. Thanks for tuning in.